Welcome to the Joy and Justice Podcast, an extension of the Standing in the Gap Fund. This podcast takes you behind the scenes of how we transform art, grief, and truth into movement. Each conversation is a reminder that justice isn't just something we fight for in courts or in policy. It's something we build in our communities through story and connection. Today's conversation is one that is close to my heart. I'm joined by three incredible storytellers and collaborators, people who've stood beside me, worked with care, and helped the world see that what justice looks like through art. But most importantly, they are my family. Please welcome Geeta Gandbhir, Nikon Kwantu, and Alisa Payne. Geeta Gandbhir, co-founder of Message Pictures, is an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning filmmaker whose work spans over 2 decades. A protege of renowned directors Spike Lee and Sam Pollard, Geeta has honed a cinematic voice that blends sharp social insight with deep empathy. Her films include the acclaimed documentaries Owens County and The Road to Black Power, When the Levees Broke, and most recently the docuseries Katrina Come Hell and High Water, and of course, The Perfect Neighbor. Through her work, Geeta uses storytelling to explore race, justice, and the power of truth, always centering the humanity behind every story she tells. Nikon Kwantu is a multimedia film and animation producer with more than 20 years of experience. He has been an animation and digital producer for Sesame Workshop, Late Night Cartoons, and Whoopi Goldberg Presents Mom's Mabley. He has also worked on impactful projects like Lowndes County, The Road to Black Power, and of course, The Perfect Neighbor, blending art, storytelling, and social awareness to push the boundaries of how we see justice. He reminds us that creativity itself can be a form of advocacy and a way of helping communities tell their truth. And last but not least, Alisa Payne is an award-winning producer with a career spanning more than 25 years. Her recent projects include Harlem Ice on Disney+, the documentary Stamped from the Beginning, and The Perfect Neighbor. As a co-founder of Message Pictures, Alisa is committed to creating opportunities for underrepresented creatives to tell stories that matter and move us towards justice. So, as we've discussed, Ajike passed on June 3rd of 2023, that Friday night. On Saturday morning, as we talked about in a previous episode, I received a phone call from Kim, and was sort of trying to figure out what to do. And Geeta and Nikon, you all were one of my first phone calls. You were part of that group of people I consider the day one, who I was sort of feverishly text messaging, as I was trying to figure out what to do. Can you talk a little bit about like what it was like to get that call and what you all were thinking when I got in touch?
You know, it's funny because when we spoke, I didn't. It was so surreal to me. It was also so surreal to me how we were all going to sort of be involved and sort of fit in. Um, what stands out to me is more the text messages that we were sharing after it because there was a lot more information in the text messages, and um, I remember really wanting to support and wanting to help. And I know Geeta, obviously Geeta wanted to as well. Um, that's what stood out for me. It's just like, what can we do? You know, and I felt really um, sort of like protective of you because I didn't know just how this was going to pull at you, because I knew you, before we were thinking about any of us going down, we knew you had to go. For us, it's going down. For you, it was going north. But, we knew you had to be there. And I just was really concerned about what that meant for you.
Yeah, and I had no idea either. But Geeta, what was it like?
Honestly, you showing up though at our doorstep at like whatever time it was, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, for even a couple hours was a relief to me because at least we had, we could put eyes on you. We felt that we could see you. And it felt, and I know that I was the person who was like, no, 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 we're going to book a ticket and Nikon is going to go with you on whatever Spirit Airlines. And I'm sorry, Nikon, but it was like, I remember it being like 2 in the morning and me being like, you can't go alone. It doesn't make sense. You can't go alone. And I was just so heartbroken for Kim. Obviously, like that is unimaginable. And then Pamela, who we didn't know, but now is family to all of us. And I remember I talked to Alisa the next day also, and she was so horrified. And then there was a conversation. Alisa, you also motivated and put, on the film you were working on.
Yeah. Lisa, what was it like for you?
I was stunned. I didn't know, but same like Nikon. Like the first thing was like, how can I help? What do we need? Should we get a camera person? Should we, all of the things, making calls to people. And I was literally like doing notes on another project that like I had to send. And I was like, yeah, guys, I'm going to need some more time because I just didn't know what to do. And I couldn't imagine what it felt like to be Kim. And then I knew that there were children on the other side and her mother. And it just, again, I can't even think about it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you all skill set, is filmmaking, right? And it's sort of interesting that Message Pictures is also being born around the same time. So tell us a little bit about, everyone's history in film production and what brought you to Message Pictures, right? The title says everything. So talk a little bit about, your skill set, your history in filmmaking, and why Message Pictures.
Alisa should start. She was the one who came to me with the idea. So,
I just think, especially after 2020, we were seeing all of these. There was a small spike in interest in Black stories, but also it was making sure that they were getting told well and properly. And so I one day went to Geeta and I was walking in Prospect Park and I knew I wanted to ask her, but I also was worried that she might say no. And so we were walking and I was like, Geeta, I just come off of Between the Worlds and Me. I'm in the middle of Stamped. I really think we could do this and change like the ecosystem around films and participant care, etc. And I was like, Geeta, will you marry me? Will you go with me? Yes, check yes or no. And to my surprise, she said yes, and we should bring on Sam Pollard. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. But I think I had always felt that again, having our own company or having my own company with people that I trusted and loved and wanted to create with would be a great thing, because at the time I was directing, but I didn't have a company that could do all the things like run production services. So I always had to partner up with another production company, and sometimes the things I wanted to do didn't align.
Right.
And I have had wonderful partners, Multitude Films and many others, but when you have your own interests and your own projects,
your own vision.
Yeah, your own vision. It felt when Alisa came to me with that idea, I was like, this is it. This is what we can do. And again, like-minded in the things that we want to make, but also, again, just I felt that we could do something different. I felt that it was really possible. So we started the company together along with the great Sam Pollard, who's been my mentor since I was 21. And it's felt like, again, it's been hard. Obviously, the work is hard, but I feel like we are making our mark with the projects we've had out. Katrina, Come Hell or High Water. We have a short that's on HBO that we're part of. It was started by SOB Productions, but it's The Devil is Busy. And these projects are doing well, like Katrina.
All of who got nominated for Critics' Choice Awards.
For the Critics' Choice. The Katrina Come Hell or High Water was also #1 a doc series that was #1 on Netflix for about a week or so, and then remained in the top 10. And so I do think that all of this is beginning to pay off. But the Perfect Neighbor is, again, just a part of that. And there's so much, again, I think along with all of you and also Pam, there's the idea of taking pain and turning it into purpose, and telling our stories, all the joy, the tragedy, the triumph, the heartbreak. That's sort of what we are about.
Right. So, Nakan, you're a storyteller. We're all storytellers. What draws you to stories like this that demand empathy and accountability? Why a story like this?
This story is so unique in the way it's told. Um, we had initially we knew at some point we knew we wanted to do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even outside of, we definitely wanted to raise awareness in the media about this, but past that, we knew we want to do something,
Right.
right? We want to document something. And, you know, the way this came about, just this idea of this story being told through body cam and just living in that. As Geeta said, she made a commitment at a certain point to just stay in that, to just live in that story frame. And, I always felt like, could this really happen? Will this be interesting? Would this be?
Mm-hmm.
And the way we do it, the way this happens, it just draws you in. We always talk about it being immersive, right?
Yes.
Immersive storytelling. And that seems to be a through line with message pictures, right? Like we want stories that are immersive. We want to put you in stories in this immersive way, right? And you feel like you're a part of what we're giving you, right?
Definitely in this film.
Yeah.
People
And I feel like The
yeah,
Perfect Neighbor is the perfect vehicle.
immersive story.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Geeta, talk a little bit about, and also you, Alisa, your body of work, talk a little bit about the possibility of documentary film for social change, right? Like, what is your highest hope as you create these stories and put them out in the world?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I think I came up with Spike Lee. So I started with him, and Spike Lee, again, is someone who was never afraid to put messaging in his films, and his films had a very clear perspective, and that's his brand. And I think that as a training ground led to When the Levees Broke, and that was a iconic series that happened at the time of Hurricane Katrina. And I think with that, we really saw, like, the testimony. We got to bear witness to the plight of the people of New Orleans, but from their perspective, right? It was told through them. And that experience is what really inspired me. It was that, because I came originally from a scripted background, also with Spike Lee, and other filmmakers. But seeing that in documentary, it feels like, again, that sometimes the truth is the idea of the truth being more stranger than or more interesting than fiction was possible. But also that if you put, again, pieces that are, as Nakan said, immersive, that give a specific POV and an angle into things that people wouldn't otherwise have access to, or they wouldn't know, that people are motivated to make change. I think one of the films that I worked on is The Sentence, Rudy Valdez's film, and that film was shown to Congress, and basically it helped in the push to overturn what were known as the girlfriend laws, right? The mandatory minimums that existed and that had come about during the quote unquote war on drugs. So we actually saw concrete change. And that also was a big inspiration to me. So I feel like if you can move people's hearts and minds, if you can reach them through storytelling, you can change their perspective. So that is what I believe to be true. And that's what I think some of what, are mandated is at Message Pictures.
For me as a Black woman in America, it's all about resistance and showing us in a different way, right? So I'll name a few. If I think about Between the World and Me, right? It's based on Ta-Nehisi Coates' book of the same name. Again, resistance in every way. So telling young Black boy at 15 years old that my son was the same age at the time, that, you know, this world is terrible, but part of our job here is the beautiful struggle, right? And so I think about myself and my body of work to be more about resistant and radical resistance, right? So even like something like Harlem Ice that we have on Disney Plus, it's a happy, joyous piece. That's the resistance. Black women, Black girls do not get to have something that isn't trauma porn, isn't poverty porn, etc. And that was a fight, you know, to make that. And so for me, it's like fighting to resist and also to make sure that we're correcting the record, right? Because the record will try to delete us from it right now, especially now, while they're banning books, while they're banning our history, etc. Not just Black history, our history. Black history is American history and world history. While they're doing that, it's really important for us to make sure that we do projects that correct the narrative, the false narrative, and put it on and document it, because the news isn't doing that anymore and there's no objectivity. And so it's our place to make sure that we are telling the truth, and hopefully it will remain out there for all of our children.
Right.
My husband once said to me, all of your work is going to be on a Black history. I got so mad. He was like, Alisa, why are you mad? I'm telling you that your work is going to last. Most things don't last. If it comes back in February, you're good. And that means that I'm doing something right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. One of the comments I got after someone viewed the film is it's the most honest thing they've ever seen. You know, I think, you know, as we've talked about The Perfect Neighbor, you've prided yourselves in terms of not directing the audience or not, you know, telling the audience what to think. And so that honesty was a big part of, you know, your commitment inside of how you developed and created The Perfect Neighbor. You want to talk a little bit about just some of the decisions to stay true to the body cam footage and sort of, you know, how you all decided to manage that?
Yeah, I'll let Geeta go through the details of that, but some of the overview I would say is because the body cam footage was never meant to be this thing that you see in public. People just act themselves. They just act like themselves and they just speak the way they would normally speak. You know, oftentimes with law enforcement, the reason why when you find like somebody filmed the police officers doing something, you know, and it's outrageous to us is because they're doing what they would just normally do, right? Or it's somebody else, you know, there's other salacious kind of content that's out there, not just with law enforcement. It's people just being people, right? And so what we're so amazed at is that we're watching these outrageous things happen in everyday life, right? And this was a story that is an amazing story about this community and about this woman in terms of Ajike, in terms of her life, this beautiful, supportive community that she was a part of. You just see them being regular people. But I'll let Geeta talk about the decisions.
Sure. So I think the decision to live in the body cam footage comes from some of my background again, which is scripted, and when we talk about also in documentary the idea of show and not tell, and that a vérité film, as it's termed, where you just again immerse people in the material and let them come to their own conclusions, let them draw their own conclusions by bearing witness, is different than having a film with talking heads or interviews where people tell you first and then you show. And they're both very effective, but with this material, because of the way that it was, because it was multiple cops, it sort of functioned as multicam, as we would say in a narrative. We felt like it could be like a narrative film, that it could play for an audience like one. And we made a commitment to that. I have to say, our editor, Viridiana Lieberman, sometimes I would waffle because we would get feedback and from people we showed it to. And, you know, Ajike is not in the film that much. Right. And they were like, but we want to know more about her. We want to know more about her. Shouldn't you put in interviews? And we decided not to. And Viri was the one who, every time I would waver, she would say, we made a commitment to this. We're going to this is unique. Once you put in the talking heads,
break
you have something different.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen anything like this before. Let's just trust it. Let's trust it. And I'd come back. I'd be like, okay, we're going to trust it. I agree. But, and we did. And I think ultimately the film, again, takes people on a riveting, enthralling, and very difficult journey. But we get to see events as they unfolded. The body camera footage is undeniable in that way.
Now that the film is out there in the world on Netflix and millions and hopefully, millions and millions of people are going to see it, we are launching an impact campaign around it. What's y'all's highest hope for what this film could do to change the world?
Everyone's looking at me, so I guess it's my turn to talk. Yeah, I definitely want it to eradicate stand your ground policies. They're too harmful towards Black and brown people. I want the fund Standing in the Gap fund to be vested. What is the word? It's not vested. Endowed. Yes, it's not vested, right? So to get to our goals for fundraising, your goals for fundraising. Listen, I'm going to say stuff that people in the room are going to say we have to knock on wood, so I'm not going to say that, but I want it to win every award possible. I want millions and millions and millions of people around the world to watch it, and I want them to then turn around and fight the systems wherever they live.
That part. Nikon, what's your highest hope?
There's so many high hopes. But, one thing, Alisa said basically everything, but one of the things is I also want this to help change the way law enforcement sees Black and brown communities, other people of color communities, but specifically Black communities, because as this film shows, there's a very specific way that even with the police being nice and polite, that doesn't mean they're doing their job. Doesn't mean that they're working for us in the community. They're just being polite about not working for us, and there's a very different thing that they do when it comes to Black people, and then when it comes to people that they see are citizens.
Right.
Yeah. And when they see you as a citizen or a human, they treat you in a very different way. And I want that to be a mandate that they have to treat everybody like a citizen, like a human. Somebody said to me that the civil rights movement wasn't to show how Black people were human. It was to show how white people aren't, right? And how their treatment of Black people made them something else.
Yeah.
And so I want it to show how to treat us like humans.
And Geeta, what's your highest hope?
So I think I echo everything Alisa and Nikon said, but and no buts, and I would add for me, I think what Nikon said about humanization or dehumanization, I think is really critical. We are living in a time where dehumanization is a tool of the powers that be to turn us against each other, to polarize us. They are, again, using really dangerous language and they are threatening people and trying to make us afraid of each other. And you see in the film, I think the film really demonstrates through Susan how when we dehumanize others, we become the monster. We actually dehumanize ourselves as well, and we turn into something else, which is, a terrible thing to be. And so I hope it makes people think about how they show up in their communities and how they show up with their neighbors and how they treat others, because that is where it all starts. And then the other piece of it is that I think about what Pamela told all of us about Ajike and her dreams and her hopes and how she wanted the whole world to know her name. She had her goals. She was a beautiful young woman with so much life ahead of her. So I think about that, and I really hope that we can make this change in her name, in her absence. She's not with us, but I have to believe she would have wanted this, that she would have wanted us to not sit at home and cry, but to be out in the world, making a positive impact in her name. And I also would like the world to remember her name.
Absolutely. Well, I think that, collectively we represent the type of bravery that she had, right? Like, she really was the bravest and the most courageous. She defended her children, and through this film, we're going to defend her. So, thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for
you.
this partnership.
Thank you.
Art has the power to hold the truth, to heal, and to call us to action. Today's conversation reminds us that storytelling isn't just about what we see on screen. It's about the people, the love, and the courage that brings those stories to life. To everyone listening, thank you. Thank you for joining us, for witnessing, and for continuing to stand in the gap. If this conversation has inspired you, please subscribe, please share the podcast, and visit standinginthegapfund.org to learn more and donate. Your support makes it possible for us to keep creating spaces where art, healing, and justice meet. Thank you.